According to 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, Deshaun Watson could avoid the commissioner's exempt list and play the entire 2021 season. I've been begging for some news to figure out what's going on here. And this is a very interesting, at least theory, just puzzle pieces being put together here, determining whether Watson violated the league's code of conduct would require, at minimum, a sit down with the NFL. However, it appears local law enforcement could prevent that from happening in the near future. Interviewing Watson now could require revealing details of what the accusers have told league investigators, writes Robinson, who I'm quoting an article here. And if the investigators give Watson pieces of additional information that he can't get elsewhere, could end up corrupting the work of other law enforcement arms that intend to use the same information to make criminal determination.
So what you're saying is, because they have not completed the investigation, because it is an ongoing issue, if the league investigators went and started their own investigation, they might make some facts that are privy only now to the prosecution, to the defense, before discovery is actually in place. So it would help the defense, Deshaun, and at the same time hinder the investigation. So what you're saying is, if I get this right, because the ongoing investigation, this guy Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports cites some precedent from some previous issues, Antonio Brown being one, where there's not much the NFL can do. So if you're the Texans and you're looking at Deshaun Watson, possibly, I'm not going to say likely because I don't know, but possibly could be available the entire season, doesn't that kind of affect your geometry of the season?
This is something where teams need to just go right to Roger Goodell and get some clarification. Can we trade for this guy and not have you just suspend him the next week? And I guess a lot of that comes down to the actual investigation from Houston police. And it never really made much sense to me, especially when it came to that whole Zeke situation, that the police cleared Zeke of any wrongdoing, and the NFL's like, you know what, you broke too much of the rule to make the league look bad. We're going to suspend you 8 games on principle.
Determining whether Watson violated the league's code of conduct is going to require, at the minimum, according to this article, for Deshaun to sit down with the NFL. However, it appears local law enforcement could prevent that from happening in the near future. And if he can't do that, then he's tying the hands of the commissioner. The commissioner, you'd put him in the exempt list with really other than charges, but no ongoing trial. It affects the geometry of Deshaun Watson. And obviously there are some suspects out there that would like a quarterback like Deshaun. Your team, Philly, might be one.
Absolutely. There are plenty of teams that are willing to buy low on Deshaun Watson. Philadelphia is one of them, because no matter which way you spin it, if you're the Houston Texans, he still has this hanging over his head. The fan base that he will be going to will have mixed feelings depending on, who you are. If you're somebody who doesn't really care about off the field issues, you're going to love a talent like Deshaun Watson. You hear about all the things that happen with Deshaun Watson. You don't want to have somebody like that you're cheering for if it turns out that he is guilty of these accusations from these, I believe it's 22.
I think we're up to 26 now.
We're up to 26 now. Yeah, of sexual assault of some kind. And that's where we come with this kind of situation of you want a great player, but you don't want a bad guy. And I think, in a weird way, social media has exposed the bad guys, and bad guys at the top, at the superstar level, have been almost kicked out of the sporting world. They're
canceled.
Not to say that there aren't jerks.
Oh yeah, canceled though. Your cancellation is imminent if you're, like you said, a bad guy. I'm curious about Deshaun Watson. Do you view him as a bad guy now?
Everybody deserves their due process, whether it's the accusers or the accused. And it's tough to prove this situation, but all of the evidence that I hear against him, where I think in one calendar year, he's had over 40 different massage therapists.
Well,
that there's just too much.
He's tense. He's tense, Carl. He's tense.
Is there like a website you go to? Usually, if you're a multimillionaire professional athlete, you have your guys. Yeah. There's
website's called Instagram.
There you go. You're right.
No, wait, that goes the other way. Never mind.
Yeah. But you're right. We are at this point where it's very easy to find people in any industry. We could probably throw a stone out if we're looking for something and find somebody, no matter what you're looking for. But there is just something a little too sketchy about the whole story, and obviously all of the accusers. But in a weird way, I also see the other side of it, where maybe Deshaun was coming on really strong and he got turned down and he got angry, and maybe there was such a negative interaction there that it felt like there was something inappropriate going on. And in these particular cases, it does, unless some of these actions that are being reported actually happened, that there is a sort of room for interpretation of whether or not a crime was actually committed.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it turns out that there's no way to prove in the court of law that a crime was committed, whether or not it actually happened, Deshaun Watson's scot-free off of the case, and he can go continue being the professional athlete he is. And if anything, hopefully it's a lesson learned for him. You have a beautiful girlfriend. You can go ahead and just continue being who you are. Have the team set up your massage therapist, because there's not going to be a massage therapist in the world that won't go in there with a security camera now with Deshaun Watson on the table.
I wonder. I honestly wonder if that's still going on.
I feel like at this point you
doubt
can't.
it. I feel like under orders from his attorney, he can't. But you wonder if there's enough money out there, and I have a feeling it is. I can't imagine a scenario, charges or not, investigation or not, where we start the season with Deshaun Watson on the active roster of the Texans. I can't. How can Goodell inflict that on that football team to hang that cloud over them? They got enough issues. He's already told them he wants to be traded. There's everything going on. I think for the good of the league, Goodell, on the day before kickoff, or right when cutdowns are due, the Friday before or the Wednesday or whatever the day before they're supposed to be made, they're sent to the NFL, you got to put him on the commissioner's list. I can't, if he doesn't.
One way or the other.
Yeah, one way or the other. You're going to have to make a decision, because one, unless the Texans tell Goodell, look, man, I think we're close to a deal, don't do that. Talk to the new franchise that has them and decide whether you need to be on the list, because you don't have to, because by your own precedent, you have sat back and waited for the local authorities to complete their investigations. They did that with, former Cowboy, the one that Greg Hardy.
Oh, yeah.
They let that work its way through. Now, Antonio Brown is not a good example here, because he was never investigated by the police. He was never investigated by the local authorities for that alleged sexual assault and harassment. So that allowed the NFL to dive right in and do their own investigation, because they weren't going to trip over or hinder the police's investigation. The investigation is ongoing, so the NFL can't step in. And because if you've chosen not to, if I'm Bob McNair, I'm calling the guy that works for me, Roger Goodell, and saying, you've got to suspend him. Or, no, you got to suspend him. I can't deal with this. We can't put our team in this situation where you've got the 18th best player in the NFL, according to the NFL.com. And I would say the 5th best quarterback, I would say, in all the NFL. And that's worst case scenario. You can't let me have that hanging out there. You have to let it go, or you have to let me make a deal. But he can never be around this franchise again, because my team's already bad. I got other issues. I'm losing fandom right and left. I lost J.J. Watt and D-Hop, and now it looks like Deshaun, all in a matter of a year and a half. You can't let this hang this albatross around my neck. But I don't know if Goodell can.
Deshaun and the Texans have both burned that bridge from both sides. There's no returning for Deshaun Watson to Houston. But if this is my issue with Roger Goodell, he waits until the 11th hour to do anything. I remember he slapped a 4-game suspension on Tom Brady one year, and next thing you know, he gets that lifted right before the season starts,
Mm-hmm.
just because that's another story. But he takes his time. He waits for all of the facts to come in. And in this particular case, the NFL doesn't seem to have the ability to even investigate it, because you do want to actually give law enforcement their own due process and investigate it the way they want to. Because if all of a sudden the NFL relays some information to the defense, in this case, Deshaun Watson, then that's an advantage when this actually hits court potentially. So there's too much going on for the NFL to really do anything, and I don't think they ever should do anything until they are found guilty in a court of law, in which case that would make it very easy for McNair and the Texans to trade Deshaun at least a medium value. But with this cloud hanging over him, where at any moment Roger Goodell could say, too much of the spirit of the rule has been broken here, I'm going to suspend you 8 games, because it could turn out that he's innocent of all charges, he's cleared of all charges, and that 8-game suspension not only hurts a franchise in the NFL, it hurts a potential trade value for Deshaun, and it hurts the team that will eventually get him. He'll be traded at some point, and the best and most quick way to do it is for Roger Goodell just to say, until this goes to trial and a verdict has been rendered, I'm not doing anything. If it turns out that he's guilty, give him that 8 games to a year. If not, then Goodell shouldn't even be involved. And that goes back to the Zeke situation, where if the people who actually have authority to say a crime was committed say nothing happened, then far be it from the NFL to say you're wrong, for you did a bad job investigating. Our billion-dollar industry is doing a better job than you. So
that's where the tarnish the shield comes in.
Yeah.
That's where Goodell can go outside. I don't care if you weren't convicted. What you did reflected poorly on this league. I like a commissioner having that, or I like someone in the league having it. Maybe the commissioner isn't the best one to have that kind of ability. Maybe it should be some kind of external committee that doesn't have any allegiance to owners or anything like that to help make that decision, because I do think that the NFL looks back on the Zeke situation and realizes they handled that awfully. But it was in reaction to the Ray Rice thing that had happened previously, where they didn't do enough, where they embarrassed themselves, where they counseled him until the video came out, and oh my God, you knocked her out. You can't play here anymore, after they'd let him come back, which showed the NFL was not diligent in their investigation. They were just trying to move on. Then we hear, and this is alleged, that when the NFL began their investigation, that they frustrated the accusers by asking rather inappropriate questions. What were you wearing? Essentially blaming the victim for the circumstance they found themselves. The NFL is hamstrung by what they've done, and they try to react, and they're also hamstrung by external forces. The Houston Police Department, and now we hear the FBI, is so active in investigation, the NFL can't do anything. It behooves the NFL to do something. If they're not going to suspend him, let the Texans know, let the league know, this year's on us. We're not suspending him this year. We don't expect anything to come out. So, Houston, if you want to make a deal, go to it.
That's exactly how it should be. If a team is interested in trading for Deshaun Watson, an answer from Roger Goodell is, I'm watching to see how this plays out before I make a decision, is not good enough. If he can just say right away, once he's found guilty, I will make a decision, and it'll probably be 8 games to a season, then that's something you can live with. It's the unknown that these teams can't live with. And I want to, off the field issues aside, when it also comes down to the trade value of Deshaun Watson, I compare him to Ben Simmons.
Truth.
He's way, the Houston Texans want way too much versus what other teams are willing to spend for him, because Deshaun Watson's trade value is at an all-time low. Not necessarily because of his play, but because of
his play.
Yeah, but because of what's going on off the field. Ben Simmons is because of his play on the court. And the Sixers and the Texans want and should ask for a super high value and create a bidding war. And it seems to me that they're going to have to settle for significantly less, both Philadelphia and Houston, to what they actually want. They're going to end up saying, I remember this is what happened with Kyle Lowry. Masai Ujiri actually leaked out to the media saying, hey, we have our trade offers in. We're going to be making a decision soon if you want to change it. And then they ended up not trading Kyle Lowry at the trade deadline because that's what happened.
Right.
Nobody actually upped their offer. It was a bluff, and ended up signing and trading him in the offseason to Miami. So that's obviously a different situation, but we're not too far away from the start of the season, and you miss an entire training camp. You would have liked to have Deshaun Watson in your training camp, learning your system. I don't think any NFL player is that good where you can miss a whole month and a half of practice, OTAs, all the offseason stuff, and just insert them right in. It might take a couple of weeks for Deshaun Watson to even just get back into playing shape for all we know. We don't know anything about how he is on the field at the moment if you were to throw him out there.
Well, Tim Kelly, the machine gun coming from New England, this is a brand new system. This is something that Deshaun's kind of gotten a taste of, but really you got Coley's influence. He's playing safety. I guess he knows the defense pretty well.
I mean, he looks pretty in shape for that, roving safety that they've been rolling him out there.
I do have a question for you, James, before we get to Carl's countdown. I was listening to the Blitz the other day, and you and Jason were talking about the Houston Texans' attitude here. Do they still think that this is a spurned girlfriend, that if they change their life and start coming home earlier and start paying more attention to the girlfriend, that she'll decide that that the Texans are worth staying, that this could be a marriage that can be saved? Are the Texans acting like that behind the scenes, do you think?
I don't know, because everything they're saying in front of the scenes say that they are ready to move on with them. I mean, you don't embarrass a guy by putting him at safety and think that there's a relationship to be saved.
Well said. Yeah, you can stay. We still love you. Go put on a number 25 and go play safety. Oh, you don't have to do that now. You can keep your number. I tell you, I would not want to be the Houston Texans. I'd be on the phone like crazy, calling Goodell, calling every other team that had even kind of looked. And deadlines make deals. You know what I mean? Deadlines make deals, and maybe the day before the cut list is complete, maybe that deal will happen.